Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers, and now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Keenan van de Boogaard, Executive Director of NorthStar Transitions, a substance use disorder treatment center in Boulder, Colorado. Please enjoy Keenan van de Boogaard. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Keenan van de Boogaard to chat a little bit about creativity. Keenan and I work together at an addiction recovery center in Boulder, Colorado, and we have known each other for about 3 years. And Keenan's a pretty amazing individual. He has a unique story, which I hope we get to hear a bit about. And I'm really excited to have you here. So welcome, Keenan.
Thank you. Excited to be here. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah, why don't you let the listeners know who you are, what you do, and anything else you want to share?
Sure. Okay. So my name's Keenan van de Boogaard. I am as far as what I do professionally, I'm the executive director of NorthStar Transitions, which is, as Mari mentioned, an addiction treatment program in Boulder. More about who I am, I'm also a person in long-term recovery from substance abuse. I've been sober for about 9 years. We'll be celebrating my 9th anniversary here in May, so next month.
Congratulations.
And thank you. I love music. I love old things. I like old audio equipment and old furniture, all things design. I like getting outside, doing normal Colorado things. And I love the work that I do and getting to help people out. That's a big driver for me. So that's the very high level about who I am. And then we can dig in some more.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you've already been thinking a little bit about creativity. So what does creativity mean to you?
That is a wonderful and deep question. So I was thinking about it, and at first I kind of was like, well, I'm not that creative of a person because I'm not really an artist of any sort. And that's kind of like what immediately came to mind. But as I started to think about it a little more, I do employ creativity in many avenues of my life. So what it means to me really is openness, right? Finding new ways and approaches to think about things for problem solving, for achieving goals, for getting through a day or a tough spot, interpersonal communication challenges. You can be creative with your approaches to all these things. So I think really, if I had to boil it down, what it means to me is openness to difference and to the idea that I may not always be right or have the best idea or understanding of something, and that there are certainly other perspectives that are very valuable in getting to a better place. I'm thinking about this mostly with respect to how do I improve something or solve a problem or achieve a goal that seems most relevant in my life. And so, yeah, that's really what it means to me, is just being open to difference, and that there might be a better or different way to approach something. And really, taking the time to explore different facets of things and educate myself well enough to form an opinion and really look past my own bias. And so I think this is an interesting exercise because it's prompted me to be a little bit more creative and really peel away more layers so that I can, develop an even more comprehensive understanding of whatever it is that I'm trying to figure out. And so, yeah, if I boiled it down again, it would be openness to difference.
I love it. I love that. And I really appreciate you saying your initial reaction was, I'm not an artist. I'm not really creative. And then giving yourself permission to get creative with the idea of what creativity is, allowing your thoughts to expand or roam or travel a bit to end up at this idea of openness to difference. And I think that's a great definition of creativity, because it does ask you to be open for me, I feel like it's being open to being surprised, allowing something different and a new perspective to spark something inside of you, to shift or pivot an idea to get to a solution or a goal. So how do you use creativity in your career, do you think?
Great question. In a lot of ways, I think with, connected to what I just said about being open to difference and difference in perspective, as you're aware, we have a really kind of multifaceted team with respect to personality and expertise and education and perspective and bias and everything. So one of the, in leadership, one of the big ways is to really leverage those differences with the team and really think beyond kind of what my initial reaction is, or, the way that I would approach something. So really, again, leveraging difference. And that's usually with respect to, if we have to deal with a problem or if we have some sort of growth goal as a business. And then again, the other area where I use it maybe almost equally is with interpersonal communication. We have a ton of different types of people that we work with. And as I've learned and continue to, different people respond differently to different types of communication. So I've had to really be pretty adept in the way that I speak with people about different things that are going on based on, my difference in understanding and experience, and also what, the impact is for them of the discussion that we're having. So I'd say really, with decision-making, problem-solving, interpersonal communication, those are the biggest things. On the more fun side of the spectrum, we get to be pretty creative with our marketing approach stuff. I get to work a lot with that. So thinking about, different ways to message what we do to the community and display it visually. And so it's really cool interfacing with the people that do that for us, which is a lot of people on the team, but primarily with marketing and business development, right? I do a lot of market research to see what's out there, what do things look like, and what are people saying. And so to get to brainstorm with her and with the team about how do we, convey what we do to the community in a way that's positive, and, we can establish trust with potential clients and inform people. That's the fun part of it. I think that's probably the most fun application of creativity in the job is how can we make it look cool? For as much as I said I'm not an artist, I really nerd out on design stuff and everything from, color palettes to typefaces and fonts and whatnot. And so I love the graphic side of it too. How does our website look? How does our newsletter look, and our social media representation? And so that part's fun, and that's there's a lot of creativity involved there. And it's fun to work with other people that I would certainly consider to be, more adept and creative at these things than I am, because I can learn from them. And to brainstorm is great, and to figure out, okay, like, if this is what everyone else is doing, can we get the same message across and make it a little unique? So I think definitely creativity there. And then there's also a lot of creativity that goes into like growth and financial planning for a business, right? How can we adapt to market changes, and how can we provide a service offering that is a little bit unique, or, with maybe a little bit more financial parity for our clients, or, whatever it is. And so really trying to think outside the box with those types of decisions with the business requires some creativity, which I really enjoy. I like that side of it. And again, back to what I was speaking about with really trying to just to be open to difference is really, I examine a lot of other businesses in the space and other businesses in general to see kind of what they do to better inform our decisions as a small business moving forward. As you're aware, we don't have any MBAs at NorthStar. We don't have any sort of kind of formal business-minded people that are guiding this process, and we've had to do it ourselves. I think we've done a good job, and a lot of that comes from just really leveraging the expertise and knowledge out in the world and in our space to inform what we do. That is my long-winded answer to that. So really, in all avenues, we employ creativity at work.
Yes. I imagine you also bump up against creative blocks or creative challenges. Can you speak to how you navigate challenges or blocks within creativity?
Sure. That happens all the time. I think, and a lot of the time that it's happening, I was thinking about this, like I don't necessarily realize that it's happening. I just am like, oh, here we are, what do we do? And I think what that is that I have a hard time thinking beyond myself and my experience and history. And so what I try to do again, and not to be too repetitive, is really just talk to other people and get a fresh idea. Or if I'm really just up against the wall, I just try to stop thinking about it for a while and leave it, and then go experience other things and go about my day and then come back to it. Because if I cycle through something enough and don't come up with something new, I generally won't. And so I know that about myself. And okay, time to pull away or shoot it out to the community and say, hey, what do you guys think? Because I'm just not coming up with anything new here. So yeah, that happens on a daily basis. So really, I'd say first other people, and then if it's really pretty bad, I just need to step away from it for a while and then come back, or do some more research and look online and see what I can learn about what other people have done, and then try to employ some of those tactics.
Yeah, sounds like really bouncing ideas off of other people is your go-to strategy and has proven to be pretty effective.
And it has. Yeah, I am only capable of so much thought on my own. And that's where, in thinking about all this stuff, like bias plays such a huge role in all this, right? So like if I can, that it's such a limiting factor, and it's kind of uncontrollable, and it exists for everybody. So when I notice that getting in my way, which is a hard thing to notice because it's pretty innate, that's when I really feel that it's wise to consult other people that may, have different biases towards these things.
Mm-hmm. Making the choice to set egos aside and say, wow, I'm really stuck. Can you help me? Or what do you think of this? And that willingness, I think there's a lot of that in creativity, kind of that willingness to fail or look foolish or in any area. And then how can you puzzle piece together some new idea or something that works or something along those lines?
Yeah, totally. Completely agree with that. Humility is a huge part of the thing, because if I thought that I, had the end all perfect answer to everything, I wouldn't get anywhere. So,
what's your earliest memory of being creative?
Sure, that's a great question. So I have kind of a two-part answer. I mean, we'll get, one of them's pretty deep and the other one's not as. So a little bit of background about myself. I'll start by saying it wasn't like an artistic creativity. It's kind of similar to the way that I've described my use of it in this interview so far. So I was adopted from South Korea when I was 18 months old by an Anglo family in Colorado, which is a primarily Anglo community, especially where I was in Boulder. And so, from an early age, I had to be pretty creative in finding ways to fit in, because I was physically different from my family and then most of the people that I went to school with and all my friends. So it was really kind of leveraging like activities like sports and fun things to do as a little kid to help fit in. It wasn't just like, hey, I belong here, so it's okay. It was like there's always this underlying feeling of I'm different physically and even at home, and so what can I do to fit in? And that really helped me kind of assuage a lot of insecurity that I had as a little kid. It was hard for sure. And so I know from a young age, I really sought to find ways to connect with people. I think that we're probably, more so than a child that just kind of felt like they fit in by default. They didn't have to, there isn't that extra driving factor. And so that's been something that I can remember from, as early as probably 5, and I don't have a specific memory of it, but that was a big thing for me. And then the other thing is a little deeper. So as a kid, my parents that adopted me, my adopted father was, to put it nicely, he was an emotionally unregulated alcoholic, and from a young age, and I was his favorite. And so it was a really kind of weird contrast in the household. He would be pretty verbally abusive with my mom and my sisters. He's never raised his voice to me in 30-some years. And so that put me in a weird spot. And I learned at a young age how to be pretty creative with interpersonal communication and conflict management at home, since I felt like it was my responsibility to kind of keep the peace, I guess, so to speak, in the household, and keep my mother and my sisters safe from dad, who would just, fly off the handle at nothing. He was a very angry guy. And then when he drank, it was worse. And he drank all the time. And so from a very early age, even before school, I can remember trying to, having to hold that balance and finding creative ways of communicating with mom and the girls that were different than how I communicated with dad. And then, having to find ways to appease him to kind of, keep a peaceful status quo in the house. And so not the most pleasant application of it, certainly, and a lot for a small child, but that's probably my earliest memory of it, is having to be pretty nimble with the human beings in my life, in my world at a young age.
I really appreciate you sharing that aspect of what creativity can look like, because I think a lot of people really wouldn't call that creative. They don't believe or see that navigating traumatic situations is a form of creativity. And so thanks for bringing that to our awareness and our listeners' awareness. I think it's really important to see that, when the safety of others is being threatened, it takes a lot of creativity to navigate and understand how we can support them or, support ourselves in that situation. And you're right, it is a lot for a young kid to have to hold and navigate when it's their parent who is struggling with addiction, it sounds like, and emotional dysregulation.
Yeah, indeed. And it's funny because prior to you sending me those questions, I didn't really consider that to be a creative effort either, but I kind of peeled away the layers and realized that it was. And it's interesting because that actually really kind of informed my use of creativity through my life and well into adulthood. And I find myself still kind of applying a similar creativity as an adult in my life and in business and in my personal relationships. And so it's interesting. It took its roots pretty early in that form, I guess.
Yeah. That thinking outside the box, what you were talking about, assimilating into a different culture, a different, class system in Boulder, Colorado is different than South Korea. Very different. I'm making a huge assumption, having never been to South Korea myself.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's a really unique perspective that you have of being able to see just how you used creativity in traumatic events and experiences and navigating yourself through them in a creative fashion, and how that has stuck with you and informed your ability to creatively navigate your adult life and world that we live in. And I think it's a new way to look at creativity, and I really appreciate that perspective. So thanks for sharing that.
No worries.
So, do you have like people or certain things that inspire you these days?
Yes, there's so many things. Yeah, that was a long list, and I had to stop because I started to kind of spin a little bit with it. But yeah, so, a huge thing for me is I have a huge respect for people in the helping field, and then also people that are taking pains to get through mental health stuff and substance use stuff. As someone that is in recovery from an addiction that spanned the latter part of my adolescence and almost all of my 20s, that's something that motivates me every day. It's why I do the work that I do, and it gives me a lot of hope and humanity that would be kind of waning otherwise if I didn't have that to look at. So that's huge. And that ties into a lot of other stuff. I'm a very ambitious person, so goals certainly inspire me. People that, are willing to put in the work and endure some discomfort to get to a better place is an experience I can relate to. Things of beauty, good music, my friends, my family members, it really, people that are kind of outside the box and humanitarian with their business efforts, performers. I'm inspired by so many things. But if you really had to boil it down, at the core, and I think it's kind of a repetitive thing, is here is this willingness to endure adversity to achieve a goal, right? And that's you see it with everybody. If they're, everybody's got stuff that they need to push through, and I just know from my personal experience that going through the extremely uncomfortable experience of getting sober and having to kind of realize myself, and watching my potential growth through that experience, and to get to where I am today was just an amazing accomplishment. And that's something that still drives me now. And so when I see other people doing that, in whatever case it may be a single mom that's going through school so that she can get a better job to, enhance her life and the lives of her kids, and just realizing a dream, or, somebody that's, whatever the case may be, pushing for that promotion that works the 60 hours a week to get there, and is just doing it through blood, sweat, and tears, and, no entitlement. Those types of things really inspire me a lot, and probably the most.
Mm-hmm. You've talked about your own kind of journey to recovery. What role do you think creativity played in that journey?
That was, a huge role, especially through kind of my newfound lens and understanding of what creativity is. As I mentioned earlier, it's really, openness to change and a different perspective. And then, as you mentioned, which I really appreciated, humility. Those are really fundamental pieces in achieving recovery. I was very set in my ways. You're a therapist, you understand all these things, but, I basically, my emotional development more or less stopped at the age of 16. And then, I restarted at the age of 28 when I finally got sober. And so it took so much openness and humility to say, okay, like, I've managed to really fuck things up. Like, and yes, there is trauma there, and, some light co-occurring mental health stuff, depression, anxiety. And to be able to take a step back and look at yourself and say, yeah, sure, like, you're broken, but fixable. That's a really hard thing to do. And I'm pretty hard-headed about a lot of things. And it took me a minute to come around and say, yeah, like, it's okay, first of all, that I'm here, and I'm grateful to still be alive, but I have to be open to living in a different way. That's like the most raw openness that I've ever experienced, was like, I have to change everything about my life.
Yeah.
I have to be willing to endure discomfort, which was the number one reason I liked getting high, because it just did away with it altogether. And then I have to adjust to something and to an existence that I hadn't ever really experienced. I'd experienced it as a 15-year-old kid, but I was 28 when I got sober. And so, I was an adult in a lot of ways, and it was a lot, and it took a lot of humility and patience, and I really, again, just that openness, like, okay, there is something better, and there's something else out there. And that's hard when I was, a pretty diehard junkie, to put it in pretty blunt terms, that didn't really think I was going to ever live past 30, to accept those things and say, okay, it's all right that I'm defective and broken, and then above and beyond that, like, I can make this better.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna be easy, but I can. And so, yeah, creativity played a huge role in all of that. And then also just in, like, the thinking about new ways to occupy my mind and maintain, a pretty steady and stable state of mental health was challenging. And it took a lot of practice, and it certainly wasn't easy, a lot of tried and failed efforts, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning about all that stuff. I'm still not totally all right, and I don't expect to ever be, and that's okay. But it took a lot of creativity to say, okay, creativity, and also just persistence. And also, you have to be very brave, because it's really hard. It's, you go out into the world and it hasn't really changed, and you're never going to feel insecurity the way that you do as a newly sober addict out in the world. And so, okay, like, if this is my daily experience, like, what can I do to slowly manage that, and to best it in a way, and to really start to care for myself and love myself, and believe in myself. And that took a ton of creativity, because the way that I lived my life up until that point did not support that in any way, shape, or form. So it was really a holistic shift. So yeah, that creativity was really at the, it's very fundamental in achieving recovery, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also sounds like learning to trust yourself and learning skills and tools to tolerate discomfort and being willing to step outside the comfort zone. That being, what are the creative tools you employed to take you to that level outside your comfort zone or expand your comfort zone to include the new things?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so many. It was like, it's okay to try new things. And then it was like, what new things to try?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. And like some of it, as like a cynical person kind of by nature, or I guess a pragmatist to put it nicely, it was like, oh, this is like so woo-woo and cheesy, but like,
But it worked.
if I give it a shot, like it works slowly. And I'm also not a patient human. So it was like, I just want it all right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, no, like just, you have to kind of slowly go through this and try these different things until you find a way that works. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a lot. There was a lot of other people too. And that's when I think, and I'll speak for myself, but I think for, through my experience in addiction, it's a very self-reliant thing and a very selfish existence. It's really, the main goal is just to maintain this altered state. And so it took me a long time to be able to trust other people and to be able to trust myself enough to trust other people and to be able to leverage their expertise or advice or kindness or, whatever it was, because you're so isolated as an addict and it's safe that way. Mm-hmm. And so to go out in the world and to be able to say, okay, like you are offering to help me and there's no ulterior motive. You just want to see me get better because I can. That took me a long time to be okay with that, because I really just did not trust human beings. I was like, I'm safe by myself no matter what. Like, even if it doesn't have a good end, I'll be all right. Like, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm not wrong. Like,
mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that took a while for sure.
Yeah, I hear you say a lot of what I'm putting together is kind of discovering what self-compassion looks and feels like, so that you can recognize the common humanity and mindfulness components to trusting yourself, trusting others, feeling safe enough to do all of that. And as you talk, I'm noticing for myself, feeling a lot of like, I'm really fucking proud of you, Keenan. Like, yeah.
I'm really proud of myself. It took me a long time to even be able to say that and believe it, but I really am. It's been a lot, and there's so much to be grateful for. And it's interesting thinking about creativity and the application through this process, because, for as much as I have other people to thank for my success and for helping me through this, like, as I boil this down more, it's like, well, it took a lot to be open to being creative, to thinking about these things in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that was on me. And so something that I've learned and kind of to believe over the years and ingrained in myself is that it's all right to thank myself. This wasn't something that happened to me, right? And a lot of it, this is something I did. And I did get to a point where I was comfortable employing some creativity as it translates into, openness and receptibility to other perspectives and people. And so kind of in this new translation that I'm understanding now, that helps kind of bolster my self-confidence in the whole thing. And it makes it easier to say things like, I am proud of myself, and to receive compliments about it. It used to be so hard to be like, oh, whatever, like, I'll just minimize that. Like, cool, everyone else did it too, whatever. I'm not unique. But yeah, it's really cool what's possible with it. And it's cool to think about it through that lens, because, up until I started thinking about some of your questions, it was like, no, it's just kind of like grit and determination, and like I wanted something better, which is certainly, a way to define my experience. But creativity played a huge role in all of that.
Mm-hmm. So what brings you joy these days?
Oh, many things. I love my work. I'm very fortunate that and this all kind of ties back to the same stuff. I love helping people. Leadership brings me a ton of joy, because it's nice to, and I try to, as best I can, take a pretty empowering approach to it. It's not like, do this, or, screw you. It's like, okay, like, how can we do this together? And so empowering people is huge for me. So, in the professional sphere, that's probably the biggest thing. In my personal life, really connection with people. I have a pretty small village, I think. I have like a few really good friends, a solid girlfriend, my family. Those relationships all bring me plenty of joy. Really good sounding music is like this thing that really is huge for me. Riding a skateboard, love it.
What's on your turntable these days?
Oh, plenty of stuff. But as per normal, a lot of old soul music. Getting back into a lot of like nostalgic rock from the 90s, like ZenPractice and Radiohead and things like that, which I will love eternally. Most recently, what was I playing? Oh, I was playing some bossa nova, Stan Getz, great stuff. So stuff like that. Good hip hop from the 90s, also nostalgic, sounds good forever. Funk, soul, jazz, love it all. Good rock. I don't have too much dad rock going on. I like some of it because it's pretty timeless, but it's just been there my whole life and it's a little boring at this point. Yeah. And then good new indie rock is great. Love it. So there's a ton of stuff.
Nice. So I've been asking these last two questions to everyone, and it's been a delight to hear everyone's responses. So I'm excited to hear yours. So what is an everyday issue you have in your life that you had to use creativity to solve?
Good question. So like for me, I think it's like just maintaining awareness to my state of mental health and well-being, especially given recent circumstances, right? Like we're all cooped up and boredom is always like enemy number one for me. So like I have to find ways to stay entertained without just getting digested by my couch. Like, so, and this is an ongoing thing because I live alone and my life is pretty insular. I mean, I spend some time with my girlfriend and, a little bit with my family. And so even, without the craziness that's going on right now, that's always been an issue for me. So, trying to find balance in the activities I do. So whether that's reading new stuff or finding classes online, I try to learn as much as I can all the time, just it keeps my mind active and gives me what I hope is a competitive edge.
Yeah.
So things like that. Also, like staying active is something that I have to like stay on top of, because I will also, as much as I like to say I do all those things, I will spend a day on my couch. That is for sure something I've been known to do. So staying active is huge. So, going skateboarding or finding a new place to go hiking. It's really, again, just like thinking about something new or different, because otherwise I think like most humans, a creature of habit. And when you really kind of push to the limit of your routine, like given the current circumstance,
the current circumstance you're speaking about is the COVID-19 pandemic. We're all currently quarantining to support flattening the curve.
It's easy to kind of like maintain a routine when you have your job to go to and you see, whatever set of friends X times a week or whatever. But when you're kind of just left to your devices and there's nothing going on, this is where I'm super grateful for technology, because the internet is huge right now, right? I mean, there's good and bad things about it, and I won't, proselytize about that. But there's so much information out there and there's so much to learn. Exploring new things to do, and then also really like working on human connectivity, because right now it's, and again, as I mentioned, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I would be classified as an introvert, and I'm okay being alone a lot of the time. But so really looking at new ways and to connect with people, but also connecting with people that I haven't in a long time, and kind of reforging relationships and really just realizing the value of human connection and the different ways that we can stay in touch and connected to one another. So that's one of the benefits of the pandemic, is that it kind of pushes you to be creative. And I feel like a lot of people you're talking to probably say the same thing, because if not, you just get bored. Like, what are you going to do? Like, so much Netflix.
That's true. I think you're actually the first person to really talk about, well, maybe there's been one other person talk about boredom and how they solve it with creativity, but yeah. And then just to wrap up, what is your secret to creativity?
Ooh, my secret. That's a good one. I mean, I think a lot of it is, it's like finding the balance between humility, like you mentioned earlier, right? And saying, hey, I could use some help from other people. And also maybe this would be better with help from other people. And then also like the self-confidence to say, you know what, I'm willing to take a risk based on my understanding of this to figure it out. And so it's like, for me, I think it's really finding that balance. It's like, and that's a very well calculated risk, I'll disclaim. So learn as much as I can, and then find the sweet spot to leverage inviting other perspective and other personalities and ideas and biases. And so I think that is what it would be for me. And I think that's really been a huge key to my success, is recognizing opportunity and then finding a creative way to pursue it and achieve whatever my goal is with it. And so far it's worked pretty okay. So, but again, so it's like equal parts me and the world around me, and really realizing when that is, still perfecting the secret, but it's working out all right.
Excellent. I love the disclaimer. You're still perfecting the secret. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And if people wanted to learn more about you or get in touch with you or learn about the Addiction Recovery Center, how would they go about doing that?
Sure. I think, so if they want to learn more about NorthStar, the best way to do that is to go to the website, which is northstartransitions.com. And then I have also a LinkedIn that has a lot about me, with just kind of high level professional stuff about me, but also connections to the agencies that I work with. Also, as a last plug, I'm also the chairman of the board for a nonprofit in Denver called Stout Street Foundation. It's a wonderful program. It's free, and that's actually where I got sober, full disclosure. And stoutstreet.org is their website. Incredible agency. I would, if you're interested in the addiction treatment space, I would look into them as well.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing your deep and not so deep thoughts on creativity. I really appreciate it. It was great to see you online. And thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. This is a great exercise. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's nice because your questions about creativity got me thinking more creatively about myself and about what it means to be creative. So I appreciate that for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so like us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and your family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your comments, reviews, and questions. Tune in Tuesdays for a new episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.